They said you wouldn't make it. They whispered behind closed doors, betting against you, waiting for the moment you would crumble under the weight of their doubts. They buried you beneath a mountain of expectations you never agreed to carry. They called you weak, fragile, insignificant. But here you are, still standing, still breathing, still fighting. You've been broken, haven't you? Bent to the point where you thought you would snap. You've watched people walk away when you needed them the most. You've seen hands that once held yours let go without warning. You've been left alone in the cold, screaming into a void that never bothered to echo your pain back at you. You know what it feels like to be abandoned, to be overlooked, to be treated like an afterthought. But tell me this, if you were truly as weak as they believed, why are you still here? Why does the fire inside you refuse to go out? The time for waiting is over. The time for doubting is done. You were never meant to bow, you were born to rise. Every scar on your skin, every wound on your soul is proof that you have walked through fire and refused to burn. They wanted you to break. They wanted you to fold. They wanted you to surrender to the weight of the world pressing down on you. But they didn't understand one thing. You are not made of glass. You are not made of paper. You are not something that shatters under pressure. You are forged from something far stronger. The world has tried to convince you that you are small, that you are powerless, that you should accept the role they've assigned you. But tell me, when did you start believing that lie? When did you allow their voices to become louder than your own? When did you trade your fire for silence, your power for permission? You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need them to believe in you. You only need one thing, the truth. And the truth is they have underestimated you. Every single time they told you that you weren't enough, every time they made you feel invisible, they were planting a seed of power inside you. And now, that seed is ready to grow. No more waiting, no more hesitation, no more apologizing for taking up space. You have spent too long shrinking yourself to fit into the narrow box they built for you. Too long pretending to be less than what you are just to make others comfortable. But you weren't born to be small. You weren't born to live in the shadows of their expectations. You weren't born to be forgotten. You were born to rise, to break every chain they wrapped around you, to shatter every ceiling they built above you, to set fire to every limitation they tried to place on you. Do you feel that? That pulse inside of you? That is your power waking up. That is the part of you they tried to silence roaring back to life. You have been told for so long that you are weak, but weak things do not survive what you have endured. Weak things do not get back up after they've been knocked down. Weak things do not keep going when everything inside them is screaming to stop. You are not weak. You are not fragile. You are not breakable. They tried to destroy you. They tried to erase you. They tried to make you forget who you are, but they failed. They failed because they didn't realize that the very thing they tried to use against you, the pain, the struggle, the hardship, was the very thing that would make you unstoppable. Every tear you've cried, every betrayal you've endured, every moment of doubt you've faced has only sharpened you. It has stripped away the illusions, burned away the weakness, and left behind something unbreakable. So tell me, what are you going to do now? Are you going to let them win? Are you going to let them keep writing the story of your life? Or are you going to take back the pen? Because this moment, right now, is the moment where everything changes. This is the moment where you stop being a prisoner to the past and become the architect of your future. The world is not ready for you. They never were. They tried to silence you because they feared what would happen if you realized your own strength. They tried to keep you in the dark because they knew that the second you stepped into your power, nothing would be able to stop you. And now, that moment has come. Rise. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Rise. And show them that no matter how hard they tried, they could not destroy you. Rise. And show them that you are invincible. They don't know what it feels like to be you. They don't know the weight you carry, the battles you fight in silence, the war that rages inside your mind every single day. They only see the surface, the mask you wear, the forced smiles, the quiet nods when they ask if you're okay. But they don't see the truth. They don't see the moments when the walls close in, when the air feels too heavy to breathe, when you wonder if it's even worth it to keep going. They don't see the nights you've spent staring at the ceiling, your mind screaming at you, telling you that you're not enough, that you'll never be enough. You have walked through fire, but no one saw the flames. You have been drowning, but no one noticed the water rising. You have fallen over and over again, but the world only sees when you stand up, never the moments when you struggle to lift yourself from the ground. And maybe, just maybe, you've started to believe them. Maybe you've started to believe that this is all you will ever be. Someone who tries, someone who hopes, someone who fights, but never quite wins. They laughed at your dreams. They whispered behind your back. They told you to be realistic, to lower your expectations, to accept your place in the world. They made you feel like you were reaching for something you would never grasp, and worst of all, They made you doubt yourself. They planted seeds of uncertainty in your mind, and those seeds took root. Now, every time you try to move forward, you hear their voices pulling you back. Your failures haunt you. You replay them like a movie you can't turn off. Every misstep, every rejection, every time you weren't chosen, every time you gave your all and it still wasn't enough. You've convinced yourself that maybe you just aren't meant to win. Maybe life is just a cycle of trying and failing, hoping and hurting, believing and breaking. And maybe you've started to think that this is as good as it gets. But let me tell you something. That voice in your head, the one telling you that you'll never make it, that is not your voice. That is the voice of every person who ever doubted you, every fear that ever tried to control you, every failure that ever tried to define you. That is the voice of the enemy. And if you listen to it, if you let it take over, you will never escape the cage they built for you. So let me ask you something. How many nights have you lain awake, wondering if you are enough? How many times have you looked in the mirror and seen a stranger staring back at you? Someone who looks like you, but who has been worn down, beaten, hollowed out by the world. How many times have you felt invisible, like no one sees you, like you could disappear and the world would keep spinning without missing a beat? You have been told so many lies, that you are weak, that you are small, that you are replaceable, that your dreams are too big, your voice too loud, your presence too much. They made you feel like you were a burden, like you were asking for too much by simply wanting to be seen, to be heard, to be valued. And you believed them. But let me tell you what they don't want you to know. They thought they were writing your ending, but they forgot. You are the author of your own story. Every page they tried to fill with doubt, you have the power to rewrite. Every limit they placed on you, you have the power to break. Every time they said you can't, you have the power to prove them wrong. Because you are not the person they made you believe you were. You are not your failures, you are not your past, you are not the sum of your mistakes. You are something far greater than they ever imagined, and they are about to find out just how wrong they were. There was a moment, maybe more than one, where you truly believed it was over, where the weight of everything you carried became too heavy, where every step forward felt like sinking deeper into the ground. You thought you had nothing left. You looked at yourself in the mirror and saw someone unrecognizable, someone hollow, someone who had given everything and still ended up with nothing. And maybe, just maybe, for the first time, you let yourself believe what they said about you, that you weren't strong enough, that you weren't worthy, that you would never be enough. The world has a cruel way of breaking people. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens piece by piece, one disappointment after another, one betrayal, one failure, one heartbreak at a time, until you wake up one day and realize that you don't even recognize the person staring back at you. You used to dream, you used to believe, but now you barely have the energy to get through the day. Now, hope feels like a distant memory, like something that belonged to someone else. Someone you used to be. And those voices, oh, those voices, they never stop, do they? The whispers in the back of your mind, the ones that creep in during the silence, when no one is around to drown them out. You're not good enough. You'll never make it. Who do you think you are? You've heard them so often that they no longer feel like an external force. They have become your own. Your mind has become your battleground and it feels like you're losing the war. And then there's the pain no one talks about. The kind that doesn't come from a single moment, but from years of being unseen, unheard, unappreciated. The kind of pain that makes you question whether you even matter. The kind of pain that makes you wonder if anyone would notice if you just disappeared. You have smiled through it. You have laughed through it. But deep down, the weight of it has been suffocating you. The betrayals cut the deepest, don't they? The ones you trusted the most. The ones who swore they would never leave. The ones who knew your secrets, your weaknesses, your dreams, and used them against you. You replay their words, their actions, trying to make sense of it, trying to figure out what you did wrong, as if somehow the pain would hurt less if you could just understand. But some things don't have explanations. Some things just break you. And failure has been your shadow, always lurking, always waiting. You tried, you gave everything, but it wasn't enough. The doors slammed in your face. The people who said they believed in you suddenly disappeared when you needed them the most. And the worst part? You started to believe that maybe they were right. Maybe you weren't meant for more. Maybe you were foolish for thinking you ever had a chance. Maybe this is all you were ever destined for, being the one who almost made it, the one who tried, the one who fought, but lost. But do you hear that? That sound? That is not the sound of the end. That is the sound of your pulse. Still fighting, still alive. You may not realize it now, but if you are still breathing, if you are still here, then you are not finished. The world tried to break you, but it forgot one thing. Some things cannot be broken. Some things, when shattered, only become sharper, stronger, more dangerous than before. You are not done. Not yet. You survived. And survival is the first step to victory. You've been through hell, but you're still here. Maybe you haven't fully realized it yet. Maybe you're still carrying the weight of the past. But let me remind you, if life had the power to break you, you wouldn't be standing. The fact that you are still breathing, still pushing forward despite everything, means you have something inside you that refuses to die. That is your fire. That is your strength. And it's time you start recognizing it. You've been looking at yourself through the wrong lens. You've been measuring your worth by your scars, your losses, your moments of weakness. But what if I told you that every scar is proof that you fought, that every wound is proof that you lived? The things that you thought would destroy you, they didn't. They shaped you. They forged you. You don't just carry pain, you carry wisdom. You don't just have wounds, you have lessons. And now you have a choice. Either you let those wounds define you, or you let them remind you of what you've overcome. Even the forest burns before new life can rise. Even the hardest storms eventually clear. Everything in nature goes through destruction before transformation. And so have you. You have been torn down, you have been stripped to your core, but that doesn't mean you are finished. That means you are being rebuilt. Everything that was meant to weaken you has, in fact, been preparing you for something greater. The pain you've endured, that's your foundation. The lessons you've learned, that's your strength. You are not at the end of your story. You are at the beginning of your rebirth. But let's be clear, no one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you deserve. The world doesn't work that way. If you want to rise, you must choose it. You must decide right now that you will not let your past define you, that you will not remain buried beneath the weight of what has happened, that you will stand no matter how many times you have fallen. No more waiting, no more hoping someone will come along and make things right for you. This is your battle, and you have everything you need to win. You are not finished. You are only beginning. The world has not seen the full force of what you are capable of, but they will, and when they do, they will realize that they never should have doubted you. They will understand that all this time you weren't being broken, you were becoming invincible. The world tried to break you, but they didn't realize they were building you instead. Every time they underestimated you, every time they pushed you down, every time they convinced you that you weren't enough, they were sharpening you. You are not weak, you are relentless. You are not defeated, you are evolving. And now, it's time to stop surviving and start rising. The pain that once crushed you, it is now your fuel. The losses that once haunted you, they are now your lessons. You have spent too much time believing that the things that hurt you have stolen your power. But here's the truth. Your power has never left you. It was just waiting for you to wake up and claim it. They thought they were breaking you, but every wound, every scar, every moment of suffering was shaping something far stronger than they ever imagined. And now, that strength is ready to be unleashed. They wrote you off, but you're about to rewrite everything. You will not live the story they tried to force upon you. You will not remain in the shadows of their expectations. You are done waiting for permission. You are done seeking validation. You are done playing small. The world does not get to decide your worth. Your past does not get to dictate your future. And the voices that once told you that you couldn't, watch how they fall silent when you do. This is not about proving them wrong. This is about proving yourself right. This is about becoming the version of yourself that you always knew existed beneath the doubt, beneath the fear, beneath the hesitation. The version of you that refuses to settle, that refuses to stay down, that refuses to accept anything less than everything you deserve. The version of you that no longer waits for an opportunity but creates it. You don't need to be fearless, you just need to be relentless. Fear will still whisper, doubt will still creep in, but they do not control you anymore. Now, you walk forward despite them. Now, you take your pain and you turn it into power. Now, you stand up and you show the world that nothing, not their words, not their doubts, not even your past, can stop you. This is your turning point. This is where everything changes. You have fought through too much to stop now. The time for questioning your strength is over. The time for standing in your power has begun. Everything they did to destroy you only made you indestructible. Every time they doubted you, every time they tried to silence you, every time they made you feel like you were nothing, those were the moments that shaped the fire inside you. They thought they were burying you, but they didn't realize they were planting something unstoppable. And now, you rise. Look at yourself. Not the version they wanted you to be, not the version you used to be, but the version you are becoming. The one who no longer flinches at the weight of the past. The one who no longer bows to fear. The one who has stepped out of the shadows, not as a victim, not as someone waiting to be saved, but as someone who knows their own power. You are no longer afraid. You are no longer begging for a seat at their table. You are no longer waiting for the world to see your worth. because you know it now, and that changes everything. So now, I ask you, what will you do with this power? Now that you know the truth, now that you see the strength that has always been inside you, what will you become? Because this is the moment that defines everything. Not the past, not the failures, not the people who left, not the ones who doubted you. This moment, right here, right now, you are unbreakable. You are limitless. You are invincible. And for the first time, you feel it, not just as words, not just as an idea, but as something real, something alive inside you. The pain that once held you back is now the fire pushing you forward. The voices that once told you to stop are now drowned out by your own. The past that once defined you is now nothing more than fuel for your future. This is your turning point. You are no longer who you used to be. You are something else entirely. Something stronger, something fearless, something unstoppable. And now, the world is about to see exactly who you are. Look at who you were, the person who once doubted their own worth, the one who hesitated, who second-guessed every move, who shrank to fit into spaces too small for their soul, the one who carried the weight of past failures like chains, dragging them down, believing that they were meant to stay where they had fallen. That version of you, the one built on fear, on hesitation, on seeking validation, is gone. And now, look at who you are. No longer waiting for approval, no longer asking for permission to exist, to take up space, to demand what is yours. No longer defined by the wounds of the past, but strengthened by them. No fear, no hesitation, no limits. The world no longer controls you. The voices that once told you to stop have no power over you. The doubts that once lived in your mind have been drowned out by the undeniable truth. You are powerful beyond measure. You were never broken. You were being rebuilt. Every crack, every scar, every moment of pain was shaping you into something greater. You are not what they called you. You are not what they assumed you would be. You are not the person they tried to reduce you to. You are something else entirely. Something they never saw coming. Something they can no longer ignore. You are unstoppable because you choose to be. Not because the world made it easy. Not because the pain disappeared. Not because you were handed anything. But because you decided that nothing, no setback, no failure, no loss would ever take you out of the fight. You made the choice to rise. And once that choice is made, nothing can break you again. So now, this is your moment. The world does not get to write your story. The past does not get to decide your future. You do. Every step you take from this moment forward is yours. No more looking back. No more wondering if you are enough. You are enough. You always were. And now, there is nothing left to do but rise, and never look back. This is your moment. Will you take it? No more waiting. No more doubting. No more looking to the world for permission to be who you are always meant to be. You've spent too much time hesitating, questioning, holding yourself back. But hesitation is over. The time for doubting is done. Now there is only forward. Now there is only action. Now there is only you, standing in the power that was always yours. They said you couldn't. They laughed when you tried. They watched and waited for you to fail. But this is where you prove them wrong. More importantly, this is where you prove yourself right. Not by talking, not by dreaming, by doing, by moving, by stepping into the version of yourself that refuses to be anything less than extraordinary. The world will not hand you your victory. It will not lay down and let you walk your path without resistance. But none of that matters, because you do not need an easy road. You only need yourself, the warrior, the survivor, the unstoppable force that cannot be denied. Now go, step into the life that is waiting for you. Shatter every expectation, crush every doubt, take every limit they placed on you and turn it into your weapon. Rise so high that they have no choice but to watch in awe. This is not the end, this is the beginning. And the world is about to see what happens when someone refuses to be destroyed. Now rise and never look back.